6 o'clock by the official town clock, and welcome. Call the meeting to order. I have a couple of additions, amendments to the agenda. I would like to touch on, under old business, I'd like to touch on traffic calming. And under new business, I'd like to touch on the possibility, or the, not necessarily possibility, but raise a question of whether we should have, the town should have a policy as to use of its spaces. Question has come up and hasn't been clearly answered recently, so I thought it would be well to talk about it, at least get started on what we should or should not, might or might not do. Anyone else have any additions or amendments to the agenda they'd like to propose? I don't believe we have any reason for an executive session, so we'll go right to the minutes of October 7th, which I think you all have a copy of.
Make a motion to approve.
Well, I saw that there was an error in the spelling of a word.
We will allow that. Go ahead.
Correction?
Go ahead.
Okay. Now I have to find it. I think it was your name or something. I just circled it. Did we only get one set of minutes?
Should be. Out of last
There's
time.
one from the 16th and there's another.
Oh, well, maybe it's on the 16th.
Oh,
I'm sorry. We're doing.
I think you'll find, second page, third page, scheduled members of the public.
Which minutes are we doing right now?
21?
The 21st?
Yeah.
Or the
It would be
16th?
October 7th.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The ones that were amended.
I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that. I was
October
reading
7th?
Tonight said 21st,
Okay,
October
so-
7th.
I don't have,
Second, scheduled members of the public. And do you have the 7th?
yeah. No, I don't. I have the 16th. Gosh, I know I saw it somewhere, but.
There, here we go.
There is a correction on this one?
No big.
On that word?
Yep.
Okay.
We have
Oh, gotcha.
we have a motion to approve. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of approval of the minutes of the 7th, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions?
Me. I was not
Thank you.
present.
Road business, Jay, sir.
We had a large tree uprooted on the side of the South Wardsboro Road on the storm last Thursday. It's taken a small section of the road with it. I'm in the process of getting prices for the repairs. It needs to be done very quickly because it's a narrow section of the road and it's used by the school bus. We have some barrels and signs up there now to try to keep people away from the edge. I'm trying to get, I've spoke to Mike, if I get any price, I'm trying to get at least one more price. And we can't really wait till the next select board meeting, so I was gonna give the prices to you, and if if the other board members are agreeable, I can call you as soon as I get two prices and we can go ahead and get it fixed. I don't think it'll be a significant amount of money, it should be a fairly small.
So I make a recommendation, we choose the cheaper one?
Typically we do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, for you
Other
to
factors.
do we make a
consider.
motion to have you accept it and decide on it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I make a motion that Pete would make a decision on the pricing, and we would normally go with the lowest bidder.
May I suggest an amendment in connection with the road foreman?
Oh, yeah, with the road foreman. That's my motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion as stated, please say aye.
Aye.
Your motion,
Aye.
so you were on. I'll put myself in an untenable position and I'll vote aye. KJ,
We have a large pile of topsoil at the garage that we measured best we could, and we think it's over 300 yards. Be great if we could find somebody to buy it. So I don't know if you want to advertise it, or
What would be the price on it?
I don't know what people are willing to pay. It's unprocessed topsoil, it needs to be screened, and so. But it'd be nice to get it out of the yard. It's been there since the building was built. So.
Oh,
Plus, that's where you're gonna be a pond,
Right.
right? Fire pond.
So that's something for you to think about, if there's some way to advertise and get people to make an offer, I don't know.
okay, does the board want to act on that now?
if he wants
Get
to
started?
prove it, I'd say we advertise it maybe on Front Porch or something versus, a paid paper.
That's a motion.
That's a motion.
I'll second that motion.
Is there discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of having Jay go ahead and advertise to the best of his ability for the sale of excess topsoil at the town garage, please say aye,
Aye.
if I stated it correctly. Opposed? Any abstentions?
One.
One.
We put the parking spot in front of the Williamsville Hall for him with some sure pack. You might get 2 cars there, but it's just a spot on one side. We didn't dare put it on the other side because the tree, I think the tree roots are pretty shallow. So we did it on one side of the,
Is it facing it? It would be on the left
Left.
side? Okay.
Yeah.
In front of the monument?
right up to the sidewalk. You have the winter sand bids in front of you. We should be awarding those. And the winter regional, people are almost done with the road erosion inventory. They were working today, and I think they're down to just the last few roads, so that'll be done shortly. So and that'll give us then the map that shows all the places that are gonna need work in the next few years.
I have a question, like with those 2 new parking spaces and like with the snow removal bids, have those gone out and for the Waynesville Hall?
Do you bid the snow removal every year, or is that just
Who usually plows it? Doesn't the
we
town?
we plow along the road there, but somebody shovels the sidewalk. I'm not sure who they have.
Mark Gray usually does all of the maintenance for, the town offices and the Williamsville Hall. He does the salting, sanding, and lawn care.
Okay. Is that something that should go out to bid?
I don't know that it's ever come up.
It's up to the board. If the board wants to have it advertised and go out to bid, we certainly can. Otherwise, if we can let Jay give some potential names and some prices for us.
Should we
to
first
look at.
find out if he does do the snow removal? Before we do a bidding process for it, we should find out if that's if he does do
If he wants
that
to do it
process,
again.
or if the Williamsville Hall, part of their committee, has somebody that does it.
Yeah, I
Okay,
don't think they do. The town usually plows it, right? And I think he cleans the steps and stuff.
Yeah, he does all the shoveling around it.
And there's never been an issue with his work.
He's always done it on time as far as, regularly submitting his bills and keeping his time low and.
I'm not sure it really needs to be
Well-
a process of rebidding if it's already being taken care of.
yeah. But given the
What's the
tenor
policy?
here, I would, at this point, I guess I'd suggest that we just let it be where it is now and ask Jay to check with him. Is that right? Is that right with everybody?
Well, my,
Start, please.
my question would be, he does like the lawn care and the snow removal stuff, right?
Yes,
Okay,
he's a subcontractor.
yeah, and that's never really been out to bid before.
I'm sure it had to be at one point for him to have the,
Could we find out when was the last time it was put out to bid?
I can do some research for it, yes.
Yeah, and what the duties are, because will you be plowing those 2 spaces now?
Yeah, we'll have to.
Okay. That's what brought it up. So we have a commitment from the town to plow those 2 spaces, make sure they're clear. So, and we'll find out about whether or not, when was the last time it was bid out, the work for the care around the properties.
Okay,
So the only thing that was left was the winter sand. I did go down and look at sand that Fitzpatrick's have today, and it looked quite good. And I looked at some that Zaluzny had delivered. That was very good too. So I brought the bids are on your table there somewhere.
so you have a recommendation?
are we doing this now, the bids? We're gonna do the bids now?
We can.
Then you should probably,
We've already opened the bid.
Yeah, we just
but
have
if we're
to,
gonna be voting on it,
Vote,
shouldn't,
yeah.
I
even
don't know
though
about it,
it's already been voted on?
right? No, they went to look at it, Jay was supposed to make recommendation.
Well, I think that it would be better if you were to
Get away from the
not
deal.
sit at the table while we're
Okay.
discussing.
they go somewhere else.
Okay, the bids were as follows. From Zaluzny, $14.40 per yard to be delivered to the town garage site. Northeast Paving, $20.72.
Was that with a delivery or no?
Yep. That's how the proposal went out.
Okay.
Sasasimo was $15.25 for the first 2,500 cubic yards.
And then what was the rest of it?
And Fitzpatrick is $11.25.
We have delivery dates from Zaluzny and Sasasimo. What are the delivery dates? Is there one notated for the other 2?
I think that was in the,
Part of the bid?
the sand will be delivered Monday, Friday between the hours of 6:30 and 3. First 1,500 cubic yards by November 15th. Remaining 1,000 cubic yards at the request of the road foreman.
I see that by 2 different companies, but I don't see it for the other 2. That they give a day when they could deliver the first amount.
But it was part of the bid, you're saying. Is that correct, Jay?
Well, I think,
Or they have to deliver by November 15th.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
it-
It's just stated in here, in our notes, that 1 or 2 of them have it
Right.
within 10 days or by November 15th.
Yeah.
But the requirements, the specification was by November 15th.
Right.
So all being even, it's really the price.
Right.
So I make a motion to go with the lowest price, the bid from Fitzpatrick Excavating and Trucking for $11.25 per yard.
Is there a second?
I would like to have a discussion. I would like to hear from the road foreman, what your recommendation is.
I think looking at the sand today, as long as it stays looking like that, that sand would be very good.
And that's
Or-
looking at who's
That
sand?
was the Fitzpatrick sand, yeah.
Okay, so was there an issue about the sand?
Last year, towards the end of the season, we were having trouble with it sticking in the trucks and stuff. It was very fine, but this is a whole different pit.
Uh-huh.
So it's coming out of West Brattleboro.
And will it stay in that pit until, with redelivery when you need it?
Assume so.
Well, would there be a question of anybody else's sand being an issue? Or because it was, you bid it on last year and we were using Fitzpatrick's last year, so there's a question this year?
No, we just, the sand towards the end, we weren't as happy with, but the sand I saw this year was very good, so.
Uh-huh.
It was addressed last year about what Jay is talking about.
Okay,
It was addressed at Select Board.
okay.
The sand would need to be, to meet the bid specification, so. You willing to second the motion?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, there's a motion to accept the bid of Fitzpatrick Excavating. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? I don't think there's anyone opposed or abstaining. Thank you.
May I make a motion to accept the road foreman and commissioner's report?
You may. I had one question because I was asked yesterday about mowing at the landfill.
Yes. We have not gotten an answer back from the
No, I sent them an
Solar
email
panel.
request.
What are we talking about?
We have to mow the old landfill site. Town is
We have to do it, or it's
We-
not part of their
Well,
contract?
It's supposed to be part of the solar deals, and they haven't done it, and we can't seem to get any response from them,
Oh,
so.
I was over there the other day. I saw there was a bunch of panels
Yeah.
there.
You had to make sure they did it, because you ever hit anything,
Mhm.
that all sits on top of the ground, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody would be in there anyways for any reason, right? But it's part of their contract.
The closure of the landfill, it has to be kept mowed, and we had to up
State
to,
permit.
Oh.
up to a certain point, we had to monitor the wells, and now that's
Mhm.
done. The only thing we have to do is just make sure the wells are still covered
Uh-huh.
and keep it mowed.
Oh, okay.
So-
But that was part of our closure of the dump. And then with the new contract, they stated that they would care for
Right.
the property, the mowing.
Yeah.
And you've called them.
It's in the lease agreement.
Yeah, it's in their lease agreement. But nobody seems to be able to get a hold of them?
On the 1st of October, I sent an email to Jody Schreier, CCing Ralph Lima, and I sent a copy to Jay with the section of 5 with their agreement,
Mhm.
asking them to get in touch with us regarding the access to the property, because there was 2 locks on the gate, and the maintenance schedule as required by the contract had not been completed for the annual inspection. And nobody could get into the field, into the property.
An annual inspection of the dump site itself, right? Is that what you're referring to?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, versus the solar panel inspection or something.
Right.
And there was no response,
There's been no response as of yet.
so maybe a phone call?
I can try a phone call.
There should
or-
be 2 locks on it too, right?
There
so-
should only be 1 lock on it.
Shouldn't the town have a key though?
Right.
It,
So like if you put, either have a key or you put 2 locks, one town has, one they have.
right. The section says tenants shall have the right to fence the premises or the solar compound, provide that such fencing shall be installed as to maintain reasonable access around the premises or solar compound by owner. Tenant shall have the right to clear and therefore keep the premises and the easement of all trees, brush, rocks, crops, and other vegetation using mechanical means. No pesticide or herbicide shall be used at any time.
So it's a shall, not must.
Shall. but in the contract, it says that there is an annual, please be aware that the request to remove the additional lock and attention to the annual maintenance schedule as required.
What's the annual maintenance schedule? Is there a
Once-
separate page
once a-
on that contract?
Once a year, they have to do the trimming of the trees and the brush hogging.
Okay. That's stated in that contract specifically?
Yes.
Okay.
Did they get bought out by another company or something?
Green
Oh,
Lantern was sold to
I wonder
another
if that's part of the
subsidiary.
I think it was.
But when we got the check in September, the contact person is the same one that sent us the check. So I included that, plus Ralph Mima was the contact to set up the first agreements. And he gave us those contact.
Okay. I think because there is a question, and I brought it up tonight, if the board approves, I'll get together with Jay and Winetta, chase it down a little bit and see if I can move something just a little bit. If not, we'll bring it back and decide how many troopers we need.
So you mean interpretation is that you're gonna see about getting them to mow?
I can do
Well,
a
this is
follow-up
all
with
new, I apologize because this is all new to me and I'd
Yeah.
like to get the background. I'll take a look at the contract and
Contract.
so forth and so on, find out who's talked to whom, when, and see if we can get something going without getting into a bigger hassle.
Yeah,
That's my,
find a good phone number.
Sounds good.
Okay,
okay.
Yes.
so I second it.
Well, it isn't necessary. Thank you. We have a motion to accept the road foreman's report, if I'm not mistaken.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Thank you. Administrative Assistance Report, which is attached to our packet.
This past week, we received a total of $161,115.60. $120,115 was from Federal Highway for the Dover Road. $20,000 was Better Back Roads grant money for Sunset Lake 2. And then $21,000 was Better Back Roads grant money for Sunset Lake 3. On Friday, the annual fire alarm smoke detector inspection was done by Kevin Morey. We passed with only needing to replace the batteries in the front building exit sign. I started to receive the special appropriation request for the upcoming budget meetings. I have been organizing the folders and putting together information for our upcoming budget planning. Working together during the first few budget meetings, this I'm sure will be the most challenging part of replacing Shannon thus far. Please bear with me. I will be needing all of your support.
Guess it shall be a learning experience for all of us.
Here we go. Thank you. Motion on the Administrative Assistance Report, please.
I have a
Yes.
question. So for the Dover Road, was that a specific project, and what project was that?
It is the pavement repair and guardrails near my house.
Okay,
And basins,
Yep.
and what?
replace basin pipes.
Okay. And then the other ones are the Better Back Roads grant money for, that was like a matching fund, right? Was that 120,000 a matching fund?
They were for the Better Back Roads. They were,
I'm sorry, on the first one, I'm sorry. Was that a matching fund that we received from FEMA for the Dover Road?
no,
No.
no, they were grants.
You had to put in, what, 10% or something like that, was it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And so what was the amount that we put into it?
Let me go into Jay's email and I can tell you.
15 grand, so.
Okay, the total on that projected cost was 145,000.
Mm-hmm.
Total force account. The town's portion was $13,346.18.
So there's still a difference of $25,000.
No,
Unless we
because
didn't
the total
outspend it.
the total project only came to
Oh, okay.
$133,461.78.
Okay. And the same thing like with the Better Back Roads, the grant money, was that a match?
No, they were,
100%?
it was a road, it was part of the, Better Back Roads is part
Same
of the
with the 10,
grant
like
money.
another 10%, right? So either 10 or 15%, oh, we got a match, right?
Better Back Roads are part of these grants that we get from V-Trans.
Yeah.
So depending on what type of work's getting done is what they match. And that's done.
Oh, I see, required local match 20%. Looks like 20% on all of them.
And they're up for new grant
Cycle.
applications. But Jay said where we already got approved for so many last year, we might not get approved this year, but he will reapply anyway.
Oh, okay. Does he have like a list of those or something?
It depends on what needs to be done.
Yeah, he hasn't done that yet. Assessment.
That's what Megan and V-Trans was doing this last week,
Oh, okay. Okay,
finishing the road inspections.
thanks.
That would have to be on our action. The application would
Yeah,
have to come
yeah.
from us.
Assessment and stuff.
Anything else under road business? Under the administrative assistance report, I'm sorry.
I make a motion to accept the report.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? Next item, scheduled members of the public. We have, I believe, no one scheduled for this evening, so we'll move rapidly on to unscheduled members of the public.
Are you unscheduled?
I'm unscheduled.
Oh, okay.
This is me,
You're on,
unscheduled.
you're on, even though you're unscheduled. Have something you would like to bring to us?
No, not yet. Maybe
Okay.
later on in the meeting.
In that case, we'll skip over you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, all the way to old business. Opiate litigation. Have you had a chance to take a look at that? And have you formed an opinion as to what we should or should not do?
I didn't get a chance to look at it.
I haven't looked at it.
I have not either.
May I ask a question?
Yep.
Is that related to an article that was in the Reformer recently about Brattleboro and some other towns getting together?
Yeah, Bennington was the first town in the
Right.
state, and they are inviting, in essence, other towns to join them in the suit.
Yes.
And the way I understand this, you must opt out to say you do not want to be a class member before November 22nd. So we still have time. At the same time, I would hope that everyone was pretty well up to speed on what this thing is all about and have a good, strong feeling as to yes or no. Just as background, I've talked to some members of the fire department and first responders, because they're the ones who have had the activity, had to respond to the problems we've had in town, which are not many. They always point out that they have the ability to go just so far and then rescue takes over, so that their involvement is relatively minor. As I understand it, and I hope that you will read this, and if I'm wrong, correct me on it, my understanding is that any monies, if the suit is successful, any monies that might come to the town are to be used for the same purpose, or to reimburse costs that have been undertaken for.
I don't have a full copy of the suit to even read.
No, you'd have to go online to get that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we don't have it at this point.
Okay.
The reason I bring up the fire departments and rescue is that in my view, the town is not involved. I think Bennington has its own fire department, and first responders, they are involved. It's a very different situation. We have a separate fire company,
Volunteer.
and we have Rescue Incorporated. So I'm not sure how we would come out, or if it really would be legitimate for us to go into it. But that's one of the questions I would expect to get straightened out for myself. But I would hope that you get a pretty good feel for what is involved here, whether we ought to be in or out.
Do you know if we have to pay anything for this?
No.
It's only to be received?
It's the kind of
from?
thing where they bring suit, and if you win, yippee. If you lose,
No big deal.
no big deal, because
Okay.
if I think one of the reasons Bennington is trying to get help is that if they lose and have to pay lawyers, they'd love to have other people helping.
Oh, they're the ones that brought this actual.
Bennington
Suit.
Bennington
Lawsuit.
is base.
Okay.
Well, see, I think in addition to the money part and the department, it's an act of trying to become consolidated with the other towns and making a statement because of Windham County having the largest number of opiate problems of all the other counties in this area.
Well, Wyndham has a big issue.
Well, we know exactly what's responsible for this area.
Right.
It has a number,
37.
91.
I mean, yes, you're right. Sorry.
Are you speaking in code again?
We're speaking in code.
I-91.
Oh, I-91. Yeah.
That's my guess.
In proximity to the state line.
It could be. Okay, so
So we just have to kind of look at it and maybe we'll make
Yeah,
a
and-
vote on it
and-
next time?
chase your questions
Okay.
in any direction you want, and because we will have it on a future agenda.
And you said November 22nd?
2/2.
Yeah.
Okay. Meeting room, that word should be remodeling. We've all been through several stages of the question of how to give the people that work in this building better workspaces. The primary problem, and I was in here the other day and had a direct connection with the situation. The treasurer was talking to, or was listening to, the auditor. And anyone, anywhere in this room could have heard that conversation. Now, there was nothing that anyone should not have heard going on, but occasionally an unhappy taxpayer will come in, and occasionally an unhappy zoning permit applicant will come in and it's just, it's less than ideal, let me put it that way.
We might want to show people what it looks like in here.
David Cotton has, for the town for some time now, been working on solutions, both in terms of fixing this building, doing things to this building to make it better, and potentially building a new building for the town office in the future. I talked to David and Priscilla a couple weeks ago with a couple of specific questions in mind, but particularly they estimated, and they don't want to be held to this, and I don't want to hold them to it, they estimate that it's going to cost roughly $70,000 to do what the minimum to make this area better. I wouldn't use the word usable. I think one of the questions that we are faced with is, does it make sense to spend the 70 now or add it to about 120, I think, at this point that we have put away, toward a new building? Now that, it would take years to get enough money to do that. It would be shortened by borrowing, certainly. It'd take the voters' will to do that and getting them convinced, I think, of other than what they are convinced of at this particular point. I think it's something for all of us to give some really careful thought to. The other spaces, the other offices are not quite as bad. At the same time, if anybody's been in here during the day and looked in the lister's office and seen the conditions in there,
Tight conditions.
we can be a little bit forgiving and pleased with what they managed to do in there. So that's on our agenda for time to come. It'll come up, I think, definitely in their budgeting. I hope you would give some good thought, some chat with other people in town, and see what they think. Anything else?
My thought is that we need to bring it to the town, like a town meeting.
Oh, we would have to.
Yeah.
At the same time,
You gotta have something to bring them first, though.
you gotta
Yeah.
have a proposal. Yes or no on this proposal.
Well, do
Because
we
we already
need,
tried that once, and it really wasn't,
it was shut down.
you know, it didn't have everything all together. I mean, they've actually had an addition onto this building too,
That would be,
you know,
Yeah.
out the back.
well, when I said new building, I wasn't clear. I should have said addition or.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they had the addition, then they had the other one, it was gonna be on the other lot next door that time.
Yeah, I remember that one, yeah.
And that's actually, I think, one of the reasons when WW bought that, was so if we ever decide to do that,
They
we
would
still
hold.
have access to that lot.
Yeah.
So I guess what we'd have to do, if we're gonna try to put it to the public, we'd have to come up with like either the addition and the cost of that, or the
Yeah.
cost of a whole new building.
Yeah. As I suggested, that's going to be a pretty good size, a pretty good project in our budgeting. Decide which way we want to go.
There's no alternatives to kind of deaden some of the space in this
Well,
office
that's
now?
exactly right. That's the project that I suggested, that David suggested would cost about $70,000, which would be put walls
Oh, yeah,
right
that,
from
yeah.
here to here,
This right
up
here.
to the ceiling.
Yeah, yeah.
Probably glass in between so that the light, there might have to be,
Vents.
in all likelihood, should be different lighted fixtures. These guys are nice, and
Now, one of
That's-
the problems with going all the way to the ceiling was the heat.
yeah.
Cause see, once you box that in, I don't think heat gets into their rooms.
Yeah, we were talking about opening,
Exactly
having
right.
windows
That
that would
up here,
vent
right?
open.
Yep.
to allow for airflow.
So if
I
you
think
close
there
it all
are a
the way
lot
up-
of, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
I said if you close it up, you would have to figure out something for heat systems.
Yeah. There are a lot of negatives to that, in my mind, to that approach, but at the same time, I'm not making the decision.
Was in the plan, like if adding a room on, would this then become like more of a meeting space room?
Yeah.
I think when they
that
had
makes
the
sense.
plan on the addition, is a 4,000 square foot addition they're gonna put on the back end of the building. Maybe even close this corner in from the thing.
Uh-huh.
I can't remember how it did look, but yeah, remember at that time we was talking about it? But it was all off the back and redoing everything we had out there.
Yeah, all new and modern, yeah.
Yeah, which would probably be sufficient, you know, because then you'd have to use this for your meeting rooms or whatever. You know?
Right, and keep the historical nature of the building and the lights.
Okay, well, I guess what I would like to do would be to move forward at this point, but keep that very much in our mind. Think,
So we
Talk to
just kind of
people.
table this.
I think, because
Yeah.
I think we're definitely gonna deal with it in the budget process. And
That's coming up.
there's nothing, no action that need to be taken tonight.
Well, what we did before though, we had a building committee
Yeah, I really
and
need
stuff, remember? And then all of a sudden they ran out of everything to do, so the committee just kind of went away.
Right.
So I think if we was ever gonna be thinking of it again, it'd almost pay to do something like that again, where we have it, and they kind of come with some, like the plan that they drew up already.
Good.
an
Yeah.
actual
You know, and then
cost.
something like that, and then they can start looking at the numbers and this and that and everything else, yeah.
We really definitely need a
So-
committee on it.
Would you like to make a recommendation at this point that we form a new building committee?
I have all the paperwork from the former committee when I came here. They brought me this box with folders and binders and all the research,
Yeah,
and they said it was mine.
Yeah,
So
Well, we might.
all of that is filed over
well, that's the
here.
role of the select board, is to appoint a committee or to, so I think if we need to resolve this issue, we need to take action on it. So having a committee would be
I could
awesome.
ask a lot of the ones that are already involved in it too. Because I think they were willing to come back on when it comes to the point where we ever decide to do
There were
anything.
two members from the select board, and I think a total of maybe 5
Citizens,
members.
yeah.
Well, 5 altogether, including 2 select board members.
Were they appointed or?
No,
No.
well,
Yeah, they came in, the selectmen appointed them.
Okay.
Put 'em in-
oh, they came in and then the select board appointed them, that's
Yeah.
right. People volunteered to be on it and then the select board created the committee and volunteered, appointed it.
Okay.
And then
Well-
also David Cotton was part of it,
Right.
as I said.
Do we need to have somebody off the board to be on it, to kind of head that formation?
Well, let's take a step back, because I think Mike is close to making a motion that we recreate a building committee for study, going back to study again the town office problem, for want of a better description.
Yeah.
Okay, is there a second?
I second it.
Okay. All in favor of that motion, or unless there's further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, then we will advertise that we're gonna put together a new committee. We could ask those that served on it before if they are willing to come forward again. And
Or new people.
I would say that, what do you think to the idea of just saying that the staff members that work in these offices be ex officio members of the committee? They can come sit in anytime and
Yes,
It's gonna be open
That's
committee.
before-
Yeah.
because it
They
affects them.
don't necessarily have to have any specific responsibility.
I
Absolutely.
think Doris was on the committee.
I think
Yes.
Frank was, yeah.
Yeah, Doris and Frank. And at the time when it
And
first,
Karen Ashley was.
and it was
there.
Carol Hatcher and Gary Julius
Karen
and
Ashley.
Doris and Frank.
Was it Karen on it too, Ashley?
Who?
Karen Ashley?
Karen Ashley. Right.
But we
Well-
should appoint somebody off the board to be the contact person to report back to us.
Looking for volunteers.
I recommend
For what?
Mike Fitzpatrick to be to head the steering committee for the renovations at the existing building.
I'll do what I can with them.
Okay, he accepted.
You accepted?
Yeah.
I don't plan on doing it forever, because I would get committed and let them guys go with it, but.
Well, yeah, but you know, check in with them.
I I thought some people already felt it had been going on forever.
Yeah, it's,
So Mike is going to be our contact for the
Okay, well,
renovation.
I've lost track. Do we have a motion on the floor to create the committee? Or
We already did that.
we
It's
dealt
already
with it? I'm sorry.
seconded.
Thank you very much. I need guidance, you know that. Okay, so we'll get the word out that we're recreating and we're looking for people and we can talk to people without waiting for them to come forward and see what we can do about putting a group together. I don't think it has to be any particular size or kind of people or anything like that. Just anybody that's willing to start, let's go with them.
And Mike will be the contact person.
You'd be our contact, the board's contact.
He
actually,
volunteered.
Mary made a good, she made a good comment.
I was not on.
She's already volunteered.
No.
I was looking at her, I saw the excitement in her face. Okay, next item of business on our agenda is 542 Route 30. I drafted a letter to the owner. I think you all got a copy of it. I'd like to have criticism, ideas, suggestions, corrections.
My thought was that, didn't we send a letter to them? Haven't we sent a letter to them? Not yet?
I don't think so.
It was tabled until Mr. Van Loon drafted it to bring back to the next meeting on 10/21, which is tonight.
Oh, okay, because
that
there
was
was
that.
some activity over there and I wondered if it was a result of a letter.
There was activity over there.
Yeah.
I make
Some
a
good,
motion that we
some
send
bad.
this.
Hmm?
I make a motion that we send this out as soon as we can.
Should we read it?
The only
I would-
recommendation is to change the post office box
Yeah.
to 36.
Yes. That would be-
Oh.
that would be good.
Okay. I can do that. I knew it, I knew it.
I thought we
knew it.
also had a letter from the assistant health officer.
Well, that was
Well,
to
that was
us.
addressed to the select
All
board.
right.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Maybe the only addition was we can attach that to this letter so that they can see.
Well, I would say we
I
send some
would not.
pictures if they,
Well, I think
of the
they're,
condition. So we're, at least we're documenting what the condition is.
So you can only do pictures of the outside.
Right.
Yeah.
okay. That would mean I would have to get hold of Frank and get pictures from him.
We already have pictures that he submitted.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to send the letter with pictures?
Was that seconded though? Angela
I
made
made
the
the motion to
motion.
send the letter and I would amend the motion to include attachments.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, abstention. Okay, we have had in recent months, a series of activities and some communications from an ad hoc group that doesn't want to call itself a committee. They call themselves liaison with the select board relative to traffic calming, primarily in Williamsville, South Newfane, and wherever it is that I live.
Brookside?
Brookside. I never think of it as Brookside. I won't ever be able to. I think the question before us at this particular point is, do we invite them to a special meeting, them being the liaison committee, and sit down and find out exactly where they are, what they think, how they would suggest that we proceed, and then hold a public hearing? Or would you suggest that we hold a public hearing first, next?
I would suggest we have a meeting with them first before we do a public meeting.
All right.
Okay.
And my suggestion is to have some sort of an idea of what the cost, a phase
Well,
recommendation that comes out of that meeting.
okay, we could, find- before we
So it's
did anything,
productive.
we would have cost estimates anyway. I mean, we can take a suggestion from persons unknown,
Mm-hmm.
and if before we do it, we would check to see what it's gonna cost. And
My other thought, I've been
it's our
thinking-
responsibility.
Well, my other thought is that I understand that they're recognized as a village, but they're not recognized as an incorporated village. And as an incorporated village, they would have much more effect on creating a village by creating their own, 3 trustees and added tax to really develop that area as a village. There's only so much the town's going to be able to offer without expending a lot of money to meet their expectation, for walkability, etc. And we have a village, here in the town of Newfane, which is the Newfane Village, and that's been incorporated for, I don't know, probably umpteen 100 years or something. But that is another possibility where those people would then be held responsible to the cost associated with adding sidewalks, etc. If they want the sidewalks, they want the lights, they want to create it more as a walkable town area, village area, I would suggest doing that.
I would suggest that's an entirely separate matter from what we're dealing with now. I think if somebody wants to get together in one or more of those areas and wants to get a village designation going, I think that's up to them. I don't think it's,
No, it's
we could say,
definitely.
go ahead and,
But I'm just saying, as far as the town goes, but there's only so much money that we can put towards this. And if
Well, it'd be
they,
nice to see what they want, they keep thinking, because they all come in and they wanna slow the traffic down, or traffic, and just like I said one time, I came through there at night when one of the things get out, and it's dark, So I suggested a street light, well, they all threw a fit with that thing.
well, I
The
mean,
ones that I talked to were,
that's
came
why,
there at night, they didn't want the street lights,
that's why we have to have a plan of what's gonna happen and what it's gonna cost and what the town can afford and what the town can afford.
to get there, we have suggested, we have a motion on the floor to get together with the liaison group, I should not have said committee, and use that as a starting point. I feel very strongly that the idea of incorporating a village is a very separate thing. We're being.
Oh, I'm not saying that we have that decision.
No, I know that. I'm not saying.
It's
I'm
just
not-
discussion. It's an open discussion.
I understand that. What I'm saying is that I would like to go forward with these people they're on this liaison group, they have met, they want to move forward. They're suggesting at this point, if I read their emails correctly, that there be a public hearing.
We had promised them to have a public hearing at some time ago.
I understand that. I think a public hearing would be appropriate, but I questioned whether a meeting with the liaison group first to sort of settle down some of the questions that might go forward to the public hearing would be a
Yeah.
possible, a
Just
useful
having a
first step.
discussion to bring people's awareness to
And
other possibilities
If I'm not
as we go
mistaken,
into that meeting.
at this point, we have a motion to do that on the floor. So if there is further discussion on that motion, I'd like to hear it. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to invite the liaison group to a meeting, understanding parenthetically that that would mean another special meeting for us. However, I would suggest that 2 members of the select board could meet with the liaison group in an informal meeting without it being an official town meeting. We could do it. We can warn a meeting and 2 or 3 or 5 members of the select board could go to meet with them.
But then it becomes a public meeting, right?
It becomes a public meeting with 3 or more select board members.
So what you're gonna do right now, you're gonna invite them to our next meeting. And just put them on the agenda, they come in and talk a little, and then,
Yeah, if, with our fingers crossed that it doesn't take up too much time.
right.
And I got a feeling it's gonna take up quite a bit of time, but, so that was why I was leaning toward getting together with them on some basis outside of a regular select board meeting. It's just a suggestion.
Yeah. Well, as having been involved with it in the past, I think at this point they need to itemize what they're looking to do and present it to the town in some format. You know, hashing this all over again and over, and you know, there's a concern, and we've done this study. I don't think even
I guess if you want it,
no one's even
I'd
brought
meet
that
with them if
to the
somebody
public.
wants to go with it, yeah.
The study.
If you wanna put them guys together, make it easier, you know?
Well,
We just had a
I've
Study
been
done.
to a couple of their meetings and as part of the planning commission. And they have a lot of great suggestions, but like we need to just figure out costs and
right.
the most important about what needs to be done. Cause
And-
traffic is crazy over there, it's awful.
But the research that was just done by the Vermont Trans showed that most of the traffic is running Monday through Friday and the speeds are elevated. So that, what does that mean?
And that's what we wanna meet and discuss with them, so. I guess it depends, I would go, it just depends on when they would do it. A meeting, but
well, I think,
otherwise I'm happy doing it during a select board meeting and blocking out a good half an hour, 45 minutes for them to talk.
okay,
I'm fine with that.
okay.
Well, I think we need to prepare because we have to have, you know, the report, you know, available to everyone so that they have a chance to look at it too, the study that was done.
To the
When you say everybody, what do you
liaisons?
mean?
Because I believe
The
it was
public?
an email to them.
Okay. Well, even to the public, the general public, it needs to go up
Well,
on
it could
our
be available
website.
at any meeting, certainly.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
I remember that, and we could look up the minutes, that towards the end of the liaison group meeting and having public meetings at the Williamsville Hall and so on, that they made it very clear to the select board that they did not want to be part of a committee
Yeah,
and that they were just meeting, but they don't want to have a formal committee.
right.
So I think that's a thing that you're gonna have to address too, because, you know, it was talked about for so long, and then all of a sudden, everything stopped, right?
Well, we were doing the research and the
Yes,
research
no,
has,
but then
the
I think
research has come back, but I don't know if we've had a discussion
that's what I
as a
mean.
board on that research.
Right. And then,
I think we need to have a discussion on that. And, you know, we have to set in our budget, okay, this is all that we can afford to do. And this is what we're gonna do. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, over a period of 4 or 5 years. And that's when you get something done. It may not be what they want, maybe, but it's a start.
I think that we should start with an invitation to the liaisons to come to a meeting to discuss that.
One of the reasons the liaison group was put together was that so that they could chew on some of this stuff, boil it down a little bit and make it presentable to the select board so that the select board could then probably hold a public hearing on the recommendations that were before them and go from there.
Well, I think as the select board for the town, that we have the right to make the initiation as to this is what our budget is and this is what we can do for you.
Absolutely, but I think that before we do that, we have to know what the suggestions are
Right.
so that we can price them out. We can't sit here and say, oh, this, and we still don't know which one of them is a useful.
I think the state report has given us some ideas.
I
But it
don't
would
think
be
there's a
nice
whole-
to hear from them to present to
Uh-huh.
us what they're looking for their particular village.
That's why they were formed.
yeah.
And they wanted to be a liaison group, not a committee, because were they a committee, they would be subject to
Or just
open
concerned
meeting,
citizens, yeah.
and they did not want to be, so.
I mean,
That's my
we got that whole presentation with the, you know, the sidewalks and the narrowing of the roadways and
See,
stuff
that's
like
something
that.
you can do though.
And those are things that have come back to say, through the research done by the state of Vermont, that doesn't work.
Yeah, because that's a federal state
So we
paved highway,
have,
so
right, it's a state
you can't narrow it, you can't do a lot of things.
federally, what is it called, a federal type of roadway, so you can't even put in a,
I'd like to have them, like you said, let them come, say what they.
you can't put in special blocks or
figure it out,
anything into
right?
the pavement or any of that.
I have the sense that we wish to invite them to a regular meeting. Someone feel that it should be the next one, which is November something or other. I know that they are itching to get going or re-going or something, so I think that would probably be the best.
So
November
shall I-
Well, that's fine. I think we should, as the board, look at what that study is, and we need to
November 4th, is it?
That's our next meeting.
make a statement about that study.
I would like to hear from the liaison group first.
Right.
I would like to have their thinking, their
Oh, I'm not
response
saying that. I'm
as
saying
as a
at the-
basis.
Yeah, but we also need to look at that, what that study, what the recommendations are from the state.
All right, so I think you've got it down that we're gonna have them come to our next meeting on the 4th of November.
With
Right.
limited time.
Yeah.
Okay,
Need a second on the floor, please.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
So we'll send an invitation to the liaisons to come and visit us on our next meeting, November 4th.
Well, all citizens that want to,
And well,
Yeah.
anybody's always welcome.
yeah.
oh, wait a minute. That's not what I heard.
What did you hear?
I heard that we wanted to sit down with just the liaison group first and then have a public hearing afterward.
I thought we were blocking out a
if-
section of time at our next meeting for them as scheduled members of the public. That's what I understood.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I thought you
They
were,
could come in and talk for a half an hour or so.
I mean,
And then we
certainly
could
any
schedule,
member,
while they're here, schedule a public meeting.
yeah, any member of the public that wants to come to our meeting to listen in and talk about that can, there's no question of that.
You know, talking's great, but we really, it's to the point where we have to make decisions.
And I think that's what will happen after we listen,
I-
and then we schedule a public hearing directly after that, while everyone is together.
Sounds good.
Okay, I believe I've heard a motion to invite the traffic calming liaison group to our November 4th meeting. Am I correct?
Yes.
And then we seconded it. I did. All those in favor?
You seconded it?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
For your question. All in favor then?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Any other old business? I think we've covered things that we had on the agenda and or added. Going to new business. We have an addition to the agenda relative to use of town buildings and or equipment and the potential need for a policy on that. My understanding from talking to a couple people is that we don't have any at this particular time, and that there have been requests for use. There have been use in the past, and there's some question as to whether, how the use was set up in the past, what happened, who was responsible, and so forth. So I'm not saying we absolutely need to have a policy on it, but I think we should have a discussion as to, there are all kinds of questions, all kinds of possible
Yeah.
questions. And
Should be a policy.
I have a question.
please.
I didn't know this was coming up, but I have to say that I actually was in town hall last week because I needed some Xerox copies. And I started talking to Carol and I said, you know, there's something I was meaning to ask you and I couldn't remember. And then I remembered that just recently I had heard that there was a meeting in the evening. I don't know if it's one meeting or two meetings, and I'm not, you know, I might be misquoting from what I originally heard, that there was a meeting or two meetings held by, I don't know what it was called, but like Republican caucus or Republican meetings about Republicans meeting in this town hall. And so I had a thought that I don't care if it's Republican, Democrat, you know, independent, I don't care what group it was.
Mm-hmm.
My concern was, I didn't, and I don't know the answer because Carol wasn't sure either, is that actually allowed and appropriate for a town hall to host meetings having to do with, I can't think, politics. Because, and the reason I brought it up or thought about it is
I don't
that
think we have a
the
policy.
the building has strict rules about not allowed to campaign in the building for a certain party or not, and not only inside the building, but I think it was 75 feet or even 100
That's if
feet.
voting is going on.
That's just for
in the
voting.
That's voting, okay.
Yeah.
So I have no idea, but I know that I did go and ask Carol, is this appropriate? So if you're talking
Well, I
about
think
use
you
of the building,
I
that's
think
one
you
of the
said
questions I
that in the
had.
past there have been meetings held here, political, non-political, and I think at this point we just need to make a policy as to how the building is used.
I mean, I have no idea, it's the first time
So
I
I don't
wasn't-
think there is a policy, is there?
No.
No.
Does the town clerk have a policy? Because wouldn't they ask the town clerk if the
No,
building
she
was
did
available?
not have a policy. She
Okay.
didn't even know the answer for it. She said that she had been questioning it on her own because I guess she doesn't remember anything like this before.
Well-
I hadn't heard of it. And so the conversation was sort of left at,
Well, I think it's
neither of
been,
us knew.
it's been a loose policy in the sense that, of course, there's planning meetings, there's committee meetings that are held here.
There's a very definite distinction between committees that are part and parcel of the
Right.
Newfane government and outside groups that might wish to use space. And was asked the question and thought that it was something that, after I did a little digging and came to the conclusion there was nothing, it was something that ought to be brought up and
Well, we should have a
discussed.
policy. I've questioned that in the past. So do we have some way of looking at a policy from another town or something to see what they do about
Sure,
space
we can
rental?
do that. We can contact the league and see if they have anything as
Yeah,
guidance.
yeah.
Yeah, I
That's,
think what VLCT was good to be.
Maybe. It's kind of an iffy
I'm sorry.
thing.
yeah. So if, with that background, I'd like to suggest that Winona be able to contact the league and, let's say, half a dozen neighboring towns, not necessarily adjoining, but somewhat similar towns, to see if they have anything that might work as a model.
Yeah, and the other thing would be the concern about insurance and liability.
Yeah, well, I think
And
that
protected records.
I would like to find out if there's anything out there that we can start to build on. To
Yes.
use as building, and then we get into the details such as you suggested. I agree completely. I'll leave my strong feelings about it till later. Thank you.
Can I also mention something? There is a space up in the staircase in the back of this building, and it's used like for storage or whatever. It's not handicap accessible, but I mean, if you're looking to look at space availability for, for holding nonprofit entities, meetings, would that be anything that you guys would
Have you
consider?
ever been up there?
I once.
End of conversation.
It's kind of big and open up there. I live up
I
there.
like the room up there.
Yeah.
I only have been there once.
Yeah.
It would
You have to do a little decorating.
take a little doing. Well, this is something that could be discussed
Okay.
later on, but
With the building,
If
new
we
building
can-
committee that Michael's in charge of.
Right.
it-
We get one of those rider chairs that go up the stairs, right?
yeah, unless
Donated.
I hear objection, I will ask when I to chase down some
Yeah.
ideas from towns and the league.
Yeah.
I don't think we need a motion on it.
Okay.
Okay, Planning Commission has provided a letter. We're now down to correspondence. Nominating Tim Shortell to the Planning Commission.
Do we know anything about?
I
I'm
would-
sorry, I don't know.
No, I don't. I would,
Did he send
Use-
something in?
yeah, he has a nice letter. I would, I'll come right out and say it. I'd like to invite him to one of our meetings. Meet him,
I agree with you.
talk to him, and
And
go
then we
from
get
there.
copies of whatever he sent in.
Yeah, I think you have it.
You do?
There's a letter attached to Ken's memo. Attached to that is a letter from Tim Shortland.
Oh, okay.
So if,
Do we have it in our packet though?
what?
Is it in our packet?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make that motion, Pete.
I didn't get a copy. Oh, this one right here. Okay.
I'll second it.
Would you give me a date, our next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay,
Sure.
I'll ask,
Maybe we can put it up toward the top of the agenda.
yeah,
Yeah, so that's
So they
probably the
don't have to
best.
wait.
I don't believe we need a motion on it. We can, it's a sense of the board that we would like to invite Mr. Shortell to our next meeting, and that he will be put on the agenda fairly early. Unless I hear objection, we'll leave it at that.
Should we, as a note, should we read this letter out in public?
We could do that then or now. I have no
Why
problem.
don't we do it now, just so people will understand who he is?
Or we can have him do it when he comes in personally, and he can introduce himself to us personally.
Well, I can read it. It's just that, dear members of the select board, this is to convey my interest in
I'd
serving
like-
on the planning commission. I've lived in Newfane for 2 years and would like to contribute to our common good. I believe that the planning commission is a good match for my skill set as a professor of rural sociology. I'm trained in data analysis and quantitative methods. Timothy Shortell.
Can you spell his last name?
Short.
Shortell.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Also under correspondence for us this evening is report of the tree warden's hearing relative to the ash tree that was, there was a hearing on September 13th. Minutes were taken. I acted as clerk pro tem. Bill Gunther added some wording, and let me just read this part. After considering all public comments as well as reviewing all of the very extensive analysis done on the tree dating back to 1995, tree rates as a hazard using several recognized methodologies of determining hazard trees. Additionally, if the tree falls, it could cause substantial damage, possibly injure or kill someone. Therefore, I grant Newbrook Fire Department permission to have this tree removed. This decision is consistent with the Vermont statutes, VSA 24, Chapter 67, that tree wardens can make the decision to have a public tree removed if it constitutes a hazard to public safety. That is pretty much for our information. We have no action, nothing we have to do except put it in the file.
We don't have to make an action on it? How does-
No, the tree ward, it's specific in the legislation. The tree ward's decision is final,
Oh, okay.
happily.
That clarifies it. Good.
Plus it's on fire department property, right? It's on private property.
Yeah, it's on fire department property, subject to discussion by people who believe otherwise, but we won't go into that.
Yeah, that's done.
Okay, I have added to the agenda the point on broadband, or question on broadband. This is a letter from Wyndham Regional Commission seeking a letter of support by October 22nd for a joint grant application to conduct a feasibility study and broadband business planning to provide broadband coverage for the entire Wyndham region. Then the letter goes on in some detail as outlining the background on this. Two groups ValleyNet, two companies, ValleyNet and the Center on Rural Innovation, have drafted a proposal for development of a broadband feasibility study and related business plan for Wyndham region as a whole. There are 27 towns in the Wyndham region. This is a study, a feasibility study, related business plan. By going along with this, so to speak, we are not, we don't have, it won't cost us anything. It will give us some answers that several people I know would love to, questions that several people would love to have the answers to. Several arguments for getting better broadband coverage. I think we all know what they are. Some of the ones that are banded around are that people need to have it for their business, whether they are independent operators or have a a company in the area that been suggested that people are leaving Vermont because they don't have it, going to areas where they get better coverage. I am not in a position to recommend an action one way or the other. The action, should one be taken, would be to have a letter of support signed by the chair to go to Wyndham Regional on the proposal.
I'll make that motion, Pete.
I'll second it.
We have a motion to go ahead and do a letter of support. Discussion, please.
Can we get copies of that?
I think you have it.
I don't think we can get it.
I don't think I did.
No?
No.
Sorry.
That's one that I didn't get from,
I will bring copies.
You can just send them out to us, right? In a file?
yeah,
Okay. Let's see, where did they go to?
So is this for each town in Wyndham County?
Well, the request for a letter of support did go to every town in the county, plus the towns out of the county that are in the region.
Uh-huh.
We had a couple in Bennington and one in Windsor County.
Mm-hmm.
27 towns.
So are they looking for a grant? I'm not really even sure what that's all
They're
about.
they're looking for support for a feasibility study and business plan. The feasibility study would be to see if it is feasible to provide better broadband to the region, and the business plan would be how that would be done, who would do it. In other words, the towns wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just as many people get their broadband coverage from one telephone company or another provider. There are a lot of unanswered questions at the same time.
Oh,
This is-
one time, I think we was almost promised that years ago, weren't we? They're
Well,
gonna turn
Yeah.
the whole state into it, so everybody had complete coverage.
Yeah.
It went by the wayside, but
we have high speed coming up through Newfane, correct? 'Cause-
I don't know.
I mean, I'm
I live in the pucker brush, I have no
Depends on
idea
what
what's.
company you use.
I think, well, I have Southern Vermont Cable, and I think I have high-speed internet.
And then you, and then
I wouldn't call it high speed.
and then you pay per whatever amount, like, there's 3 different ranges.
Yeah,
So I think it'd be worth it to see a study done on,
like I said, at one time, they promised us,
it's like having a
years ago, one of
telephone.
their campaign things, wasn't it? They're
Yeah.
gonna offer it throughout the whole state. And also that,
But they haven't
And-
really figured out how to do that. You know, beam me up, Scotty. You know, it's like too many mountaintops. You can't go through.
That's what they said.
Yes, yeah, it's really hard. So, but I think it's like we're at that cutting edge of technology, like back in the day when the phone systems came in. How are we going to do it? Well, they put posts up all over the place, you know, up and down the valleys and mountains. So,
Okay, let's get back to the question here as to whether or not we're going to write a letter of support. I believe the sense of the board is that we do that. They're asking for it by October 22nd, so I think to expedite, I would have to draft something, which I'm willing to do,
that's tomorrow.
and just, sorry?
It's for tomorrow, October 22nd.
yep.
So I
Well, I'll be up late tonight, huh?
make it short.
Dear sirs, we're in.
We're in,
Sincerely
thank you.
yours.
I just do that. We're in agreement.
Newfane supports you.
I'll,
Yeah. Do we want to take a vote on it then?
if you feel that a motion is necessary, otherwise the sense of the board is okay with me.
There's already been a motion
Motion,
that's been
yeah.
seconded.
yeah.
Oh, I'm
So we're-
sorry.
That's okay.
I have trouble keeping up with that.
So we had the
In
discussion.
that case, further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Give me a moment.
But I would like to see a copy of that, so I think Juanetta will send us all copies. If we're interested, we can read it.
Thank you. The Vermont Agency of Transportation is pleased to announce the 23rd year of funding to support Vermont Better Roads program. Goal of the program is to promote the use of best management practices for erosion control, maintenance techniques along municipal roads that save money while protecting and enhancing Vermont's lakes and streams. The application is due November 22nd. What I would suggest at this point is that I sit down with Jay on this. We've got time to act on it. We've had them in the past. I don't know whether having a grant in the past has any effect on the possibility of getting another one. I will chase that down as well. If
Is that the ditching? Is that part of the ditching thing?
It's all manner of treatment, stream banks along roadsides.
It's an application you gotta fill out, right?
Yeah, it's what we talked about earlier during the road foreman's report where we got this pamphlet,
Yeah.
so.
That's one where you send them $2,500.
Yeah, that,
I guess it would be a percentage.
so what would that fall under? Well, they're all 20% match. Maximum grant
No, this is
award.
like a permit. This is, you're supposed to fill this out and then we send them,
Yeah,
the state $2,500 for the permits to be able to go, please ditch it in your grants.
Yeah. I don't see anything immediately as to what, I think it depends on to my mind, this mess up on Wardsboro Road might qualify. I don't know, but I'd like to sit down with Jay and see if we could, if he feels that we should chase something.
that makes sense.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next. I guess the only other thing is, it's not really correspondence, but I'd like to bring up again the fact that we need a second commissioner representing the town of Newfane to the Wyndham Regional Commission. We've been without a second one for over a year now, or almost a year, let's put it that way. And as Bill Gunther resigned as tree warden, we are looking for someone as a tree warden. One of the ideas I've had, because I know that other towns have done it or done some similar things, is to see if the tree warden in an adjoining town, I would prefer an adjoining town, but at the same time it need not be. I don't believe the tree warden needs to be a resident. If somebody is interested from Dover, Marlboro, Townsend, whatever, I think that it's worth chasing that. Because I, tell you the truth, can't think of anybody in Newfane right off the top of my head. There's one person, Henry Carr, who lives on Dover Road. He's an arborist. Problem there, and there's been no discussion at all, as far as I know, with him. But he would have if he were to condemn a tree, he could not go
And cut it,
to cut it.
yeah. True. Well, do we have to make a motion? I make a motion.
If you're comfortable making a motion, otherwise I'm comfortable with sense of the board.
I don't think we need to make a motion, we're just asking.
For assistance,
Yes.
someone to step forward.
I mean, wild ideas are chased by individuals and others all the time, and then they get brought to the board for action, so I think this is
Just
in
announcement.
that category.
Yeah.
We have a local hazard mitigation plan that is, I believe, going to expire. Again, I will be willing to chase that down, find out exactly when it is going to expire, and in other words, the condition of that particular plan and what should be done to keep us in the right place.
You got till January, so I think we're good on that.
That's yeah.
Fill it out
January
and email
3rd.
it by January
Yeah,
3rd.
I knew it was there, so thank you. Just wanted to bring it up and
Keep it on your list.
have you thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, I believe, unless we have other business, that brings us to pay orders. However, I would like to invite anyone who might want to make a comment to do so at this point.
Thank you for having me be part of your meeting tonight, from the audience.
Thank you for being here and keeping us honest.
Thank you. Okay. Have a wonderful pay order meeting.
Thank you, Marion.
We'll see you next Monday, right, Marion?
Next
The
Monday?
plan right behind you
Well,
on the chalkboard.
I just had a thought.
Paperless society. Remember that idea?
Passing those along down to the other end.
I'm ready to get.
I like these ones now that I've kind of figured out how to read them.
relax.
Okay, what, next time I'm
You
gonna
want me to
get
call
a
it
little
out?
scared, curious. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, goodness.
No.
Switch with them.
How do we do this time? Okay. Can we see? Barrows, 140220. Did we end the meeting properly?
We'll have to do that after we do this.
What?
This is
Sure,
part
we're
part and
still
parcel of the
on.
meeting.
Yeah.
The meeting's still
We're
on.
still on.
Yeah.
I'm still rolling.
It's no problem. No problem.
BCTV, special meeting.
What do you have, 10? We
You
get
have one more on back and then we'll switch them.
$10,305.40.